Hey friends, Tammy here with the second of our interview series, Bringing Hope in Unprecedented Times. And here today with me, I have a special guest, Dr. Sharon Joo. She is head of the pediatric department at Mercy Medical Center in Redding, California. Today, she's going to share with us how she keeps hope alive and fear at bay and walks in wisdom. So join me as we hear from Dr. Joo. But with this virus, with the coronavirus and the quarantine, I was like, oh my goodness, we can't really do the connecting that we're used to, but we can do encouraging, which is one thing that I love to do as well. So this is part of why I asked you to chat with us, because I think I want to hear from you, just some encouragement for everybody, for people. So I'm already recording. I can edit this, so relax.
Okay. Oh my God. The last time that the Reading News interviewed me, it was a disaster. I was like, what was I saying? And they did not edit anything.
They didn't edit any. Well, I can edit. So you are totally, you can relax. You can. So I'm going to jump in because I know you have limited time. And so I asked Dr. Sharon Joo to come on today because I wanted a frontlines medical health professional to talk to us about the coronavirus. And you know, it is a pandemic, as we all know. We've been hearing it on the news, and Dr. Joo, you've been seeing it as well. You're there in the midst of all of it. I mean, right now, as of today, I pulled up that there's 586,000 plus total cases, confirmed cases. There's 26,000 total deaths, and there's 130,000 total recoveries. In the U.S. alone, 97,000 cases. And 1,400 deaths. So, and recoveries are going up, 862. But there's just big numbers for people. And some people that aren't in the medical world feel like it's just getting bigger. And when is it going to stop? And I think I wanted to have you just speak to how is it for you being on the front lines? I mean, you're hospital, you're in the ER. I mean, you're there interacting. What are you seeing? What's the atmosphere right now in the hospital?
So I think one benefit of is that I actually work here in Mercy, but I also work down in the city as well in San Francisco. And one thing I did notice is it is true. The number of cases is going up. I don't think it should cause alarm, but more of an awareness. And the hot spots are definitely New York. New York is the biggest hotspots. I have a lot of colleagues out there and I hear all their stories. But then the next place also has been San Francisco. And then of course, because we are naturally affiliated with people like me going back and forth from San Francisco, it is like when people go, oh, we don't have anything in Shasta. I'm like, not really. We have cases in Sacramento, cases in San Francisco, and we have people going back and forth from the city. And so I know when people are like, hey, we also don't have a lot of cases, they feel falsely assured that we have like 4 cases in Shasta, we're okay, compared to, let's say, the city, which I don't even know what the latest number is now, but it keeps going up. I think one thing we just have to know is it is true that we are limited in our number of testing kits. So can we test everyone who comes to our ER? Actually, no. And it's kind of sad, but it's not just a shortage with us. It's at every major city as well. And so I do say, yes, we may only have 4 cases that we know about. Could there be more in the community? I'm going to say yes. However, should that cause a fear? Not really, but that's why we may have falsely assured low numbers. And hopefully we'll get to a point where it's easier to test. Now, some of our cases who come through our ER, it actually may not be COVID. It may not be what we think it is. It's just a flu or some kind of other virus because we are still in that respiratory season. However, we just don't know because some of our people we just can't test because we don't have enough test kits.
Right.
And the next thing is always, and so that's one thing, but we do, like if you're immunocompromised, if you're pregnant, if you have other chronic medical conditions, if you are the elderly above 60 years of age, you're in a different bracket. We call that our special population. So with all of those people and people who are a little bit more sick, come in. Like if you need to get checked, talk to your doctor, do telehealth, and then if you need, come in and we're supposed to be able to help you out and see if you need to be tested or not. With all of that said, how has the environment been? I actually compared it to how it was in San Francisco and here. And
Mhm.
I am gonna admit, our shelter in place started 2 weeks after San Francisco. So I always feel like there's a slight delay from the city to us. And over there, it's a lot more hyped up, more amped up, and our hospital is like in full power to like fight. And that's how it's been down there. Here, we are equipped as well. Where the leadership has been pretty amazing, and they've been working really hard to ensure that everything is in place. And the ER, surprisingly, is not as full as it used to be because everyone's avoiding the ER. So that's actually nice for us. Even in the pediatric world, it's
Yeah.
still nice. So it's actually been a little bit more manageable, and like the whole world is saying, "Hey, we have no more protective equipment and all of that." At our hospital, we've been doing okay thus far, and we're hoping that that's how it remains. That we'll end up having enough gowns, enough masks, everything we need to protect us. Like
Mhm.
enough of that. So when I walked in, I think I had a little bit more, I was a little more anxious coming from San Francisco. When I walked into Mercy, I actually felt like nothing had changed. I was like, oh, everything's really peaceful. Things are okay. People are aware, but every department carries a different feel. And I've noticed that people are aware, but they're trying not to heighten up the anxiety, but they're very, very smart about it.
Okay.
And so they're just washing their hands a lot more. They are using hand sanitizer a lot more. People are cleaning a lot more frequently. Not that we were not cleaning, but I think people are just being more cautious. Like I wash my hands, I don't know, more than 20 times a day. My hands hurt. And so we're just doing that a lot more frequently, or washing everything a lot more frequently. So it hasn't been so bad besides those little behavior changes. We do have some restriction on visitors coming to our hospitals. So a lot of places you can't even, it's like one visitor policy. And so there's a lot less foot traffic, which is actually better. So that's kind of been the environment of the departments that I've been in, the ER, the pediatrics, the OB, nursery. It's actually been not so like people have been kind of calming themselves, helping each other with anxieties.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
You are, from your observations, do you feel like Reading as a community is taking the quarantine seriously enough?
No.
Okay. Okay.
I'm very honest. Just because I came
Yep.
from San Francisco,
Yep.
and everybody in San Francisco walks around, like majority of people, if they're not doing social distancing, so like 6 feet away, they're actually wearing masks. And that is the norm. To see someone outside with a mask on, just a regular surgical mask, it's the norm.
Okay.
When I drove up here, Sprouts parking lot was full. And I was like, oh no, I'm not going in there. That's what I said. Right away when I saw the parking lot, I was like, I'm not going in there. And of course, going to the market is a necessity, but if there's so many people and you can't really keep that distance, then I get a little bit more concerned. I was going by the park, and everybody was outside playing basketball. There's like teams of basketball teams playing, and like people huddled playing games. And I think that got me a little concerned
Mhm.
because I was like, oh, just a little bit of distancing, and it should be better. And yeah, so I think for me, I just get a little bit nervous that if there was an asymptomatic carrier or somebody, and they're like in these big areas, like at the market or whatnot, then it's just, I don't think it's as wise. I think it's just better to, yes, shelter in place,
Yes.
go when you need to. Like, don't have so much fear going when you need to. But it would be nicer if people would stay home a little bit
Yes.
more.
Yes. Okay. That I hear that absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you feel? I mean, we all know is there's the 14 days that you can pass the virus on without having any
Mhm.
symptoms. So I hear what
Mhm.
you're saying about making sure that even if you're feeling great, that you're still not having that contact, like playing basketball, probably
Mhm.
not what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. Question for you. Now, I know that right now, we listen to the media, we listen to all the things coming out, and there is this balance between, walking in wisdom and
Mhm.
also not walking in fear, right? And I
Yeah.
know you had touched on that a little earlier. We were texting, but I wanted
Yeah.
to just hear, like, How do you navigate the temptation to have fear kind of take over, especially somebody working on the front lines, right? Like where you could actually have that be something very, very real. How do you in your world help keep fear
Yeah,
at bay?
so it's really funny. I think so while I was in San Francisco, to be very honest, I got pretty sick. So I had all the COVID symptoms of like cough, shortness of breath. I couldn't breathe. So I was like sitting up, like upright when I was sleeping, had a low grade 10, but then I had sore throat and all of those symptoms. And as a healthcare provider, I was like, uh-oh, right? And so that night I did get quite nervous. I was like, well, I'm healthy, I'm young, I should be okay.
Mhm.
It was a little anxiety provoking. I got tested because I was down south and
Yep.
I was negative, so that helped me. But I think with what I just went through, being physically sick, emotionally sick, hearing all these things from my colleagues, I do agree. I think before I got up here, I was very anxious. There was anxiety of me like, oh no, I'm going to be going back to the hospital now. Now I'm putting myself, you know
Yeah.
into more frequent. When I was in San Francisco, it was here or there a few shifts, but now it's going to be consistent.
Right.
And so I admit, like that night, I was like I felt the anxiety, and I had to just kind of like, first of all, like I got to talk with a girlfriend, and she just kind of prayed over me just to like help process the emotions, and that was really helpful.
Yeah.
But I think more than anything, after that, even I just had to keep on pressing into the word, and a lot of prophets have been talking about Psalms 91, focus on it. And
Yeah.
to be honest, like for me, night Psalms 91 was the passage that got me through med school. And
Wow.
actually, and this morning, and I was even thinking about talking with you, Tammy, today, and I got a little teary because I said, as I was reflecting and meditating on Psalms 91, because I kind of have to root myself in the word every morning, every day.
Yeah.
I was just reading the passage, and I was like, God, I remember reading this when I was in med school, trying to get through everything. I remember reading this during residency, saying, I quit, I'm so tired,
Yeah.
and just reading it through it. And God's like, I have you, you're in my shelter, I have you covered. Or if things are happening, the verse that we keep uttering, like 1,000 may fall, 10,000 at your right, but it will not come near you. And I had to keep repeating that over and over again, that I am in his presence, I will be fine. And so for me, like it just helps me realize, like, yes, things may come left and right, but it won't come near me. And so I think like that really helps me get in. It also helps me like when I reposition my mind, instead of thinking of that whole victim mentality of like, oh no, I'm gonna get sick, or oh no, like poor me, woo is me.
Yeah.
Instead, I think of it as like I actually feel really honored to be chosen to be a practicing physician at a time like this. And it took us like how long to become a physician? Like you go to med school, residency, and during that entire time, we didn't quit. We just kept pressing through. And I asked God, like, I want to be able to do this. I want to do this. And now I'm at a time where I'm being put into a position where it's like testing your faith and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, instead of crumbling at the sight of what's happening, I
Yeah.
will stand tall. And honestly, I was telling my friends, I'm like, we are standing like in the middle of like medical history.
Yeah.
We will be the ones to tell our med students or even like our underlings back, like, yeah, I remember the time like I was doing this and whatnot. And it's part of medical history. And I actually feel more honored rather than like a victim. And so I think that's what's really getting me through. It also helps when you have colleagues with, encouraging
Yeah.
colleagues who are not anxiety filled, but just looking in the positive. And like, I think one great thing is people are freaking out about masks being gone or gowns not being available.
Right.
And instead of like getting kind of like worried and whatnot, they're like, well, let's think of innovative ways. So to be honest, when I was going into a patient's room, I couldn't find a gown. And I was like, I know they're here, but I need to go in. I'm gonna wear a different kind of gown. So I made my own little gown up using like patient gowns and
There we go.
like whatnot. And I went in, and it wasn't scary because I was like, I'm still covered, I still have everything in place. And then I get to take it off. And so it's like, I don't think we should be so fearful. And one thing, another girlfriend, she told me, and her husband's an ER doc who is at the real front lines. That's what I say. Like he is the one who's going to be seeing a lot more patients than I am.
Yeah.
And she was saying, like, at the end of the day, that mask isn't what is protecting you. It's God who's protecting you. And so even if we're like worried about the condition of a mask or gown or something, I think it's like putting false hope in these inanimate objects compared to who is actually protecting us. And I think that's like, honestly, I was like, God, I don't know how people live life without you, because like
Yeah.
it's him who's keeping me strong and steady every day. I'm gonna be honest, like also like yesterday I couldn't find a mask that fit my face because I needed a small mask and they had no small mask. And so I remember sitting there kind of anxious, like they don't have any small masks for me. What am I gonna do? And I had to once again like take a 30-second breather, reset my mind, and be like, oh, fine. Let's think of other innovative ways to try to minimize exposure. And that was it. And then I was fine.
Wow.
So it's a constant battle. I'm not going to say like, oh, one time hit and I'm good. But it is true. I do have to kind of every morning reset my mindset. Even when certain encounters happen in the hospital, like take a moment, a breather. And then, yeah. And honestly, I don't want my fear to limit or like dictate how I treat my patients. Like they're not people, like they're not vectors of transmissions. They're actually like people who are sick. Like my children, they're sick. They need a doctor. They need a doctor who cares and isn't afraid to touch them. And I don't want my fears to like limit me or, make me less of a doctor.
Yeah.
Like this is what we've been called to. So yeah.
That's so beautiful. I love, I'm just hearing you even say, I walk in wisdom. Like I put on the mask, or I make do with however I can. I want that barrier, but I don't put my faith in that barrier. My faith is in God to be my protector. And actually counting it a privilege. It's so beautiful that you count it a privilege to be able to care for people at this time. You're right. This is unprecedented. We're in unprecedented times. Like this is history in the making. We're going to be talking about this with our grandkids and our, it's going to go on and on. And so you get to be sharing about being a doctor in this season, such a time as this. So I love just that hope that you carry, and also just your wisdom of, wow, Sprouts is full. I'm not going to go in there right now, you're right. Or I'm going to put some gown on, even if it's a patient gown that I'm going to make work just to cover, protect it. And I'm going to wash my hands a couple extra times. But at the same time, I'm going to keep my mind focused. Psalm 91. And I also wanted to say, I loved how you said in the beginning, I reached out to a girlfriend when I was feeling anxious. Like I reached out to somebody that could hear my heart and help me process, because we're not in this alone. You said you had your coworkers, you have people that are there as well. But when all of us get to points where we're like, oh my goodness, like this is becoming too much for me, but I know that I can reach out to this person that's going to help me. But in the end of the day, when you need that 30 seconds, they don't have a mask that doesn't fit me. You have that like, okay, God, you actually are going to protect me from and I'm going to breathe in the air I need to breathe. So that's really beautiful. And I'd love for you just to really quickly just touch on, I know there's moms listening right now, and having their children, like the pediatric, your specialty. And I know that there's a lot of like, what is this going to look like? Have you seen any positive COVID cases on kids yet?
So I'm part of a national pediatric hospitalist thread. I'm in like 3 different groups online, and I get, I don't know, more than 20 emails a day. And I actually read through them because we're a small community. And just because we're a small community, I don't want to lose out on the information from these big academic centers. And also because in San Francisco, I'm affiliated with the academic center, I also get more additional info there. And so I've been keeping up to date as much as I can with all the data and everything. And so far, nationally, we haven't had too many COVID patients, positive patients. We had a lot of PUIs, meaning person under investigation, but majority of them have been negative. Seattle has been one of the harder hit areas on the West Coast, and the last number I heard was about, oh man, don't quote me on this, I think it's like 4 to 6 out of positive COVID in children, and from the like 600 that they had chosen. They had actually screened. So that's a really low number.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's really comforting. And so the biggest thing was like, what is going on? Why do we not see as many children being affected as adults? And so there was a new article that had actually come out from China, on various researches that have been done, and there is speculation on that children. So in New England Journal of Medicine, they came out with the possible pathophysiology. How does this actually virus get into our bodies? And they talked about these very specific receptors that adults have, that people with comorbidities have, like hypertension or diabetes. Yes. They have increased number of these receptors. And we're thinking that in children, they don't have these receptors. So the virus doesn't even get into them and to affect them the way that it affects adults.
Wow.
Now, this is our emerging data. We're still waiting. These are theories as of right now, but we're thinking maybe that is one of the theory of why they're not getting as sick as we would expect in our other children. I mean, in our adults. And so I think that has been a helpful thing. Stanford, at SF, like they haven't seen any positive COVID patients at all. So that's a really good thing. At Davis, I think there was a few cases, but then that was also under investigation, but very little. So nationally, like I would say it's less than 10. And on the thread, only Seattle really came out with a positive. I haven't seen any other academic centers like chime in and say, because at UC Davis, I think it was still under investigation. I don't know what the outcome of it was. Okay. So it's really good. However, like, should you bring the child to the doctor? I always say do telehealth. Don't go to your offices. But if there is a concern for sore throat, coughing, increased workup breathing, and then temperatures, then I think that will be worthwhile to talking to the doctor. If a child does have increased workup breathing, I always say yes, bring them to the ER because that is concerning. We had a few cases with increased workup breathings. We end up testing them, swabbing them. A lot of them are positive for flu or RSV, like the common respiratory illnesses. And then, so people, my next question, well, couldn't you have the flu, RSV or something, and also SARS-CoV-2? And I'm like, yeah, you can, but then, there's still data emerging that possible co-infection might not be as common. Mm-hmm. And so could there be co-infection? Yes. But is it as common? We, as of right now, don't think so. I mean, but every day the data changes, but as of right now, we don't think so. So at some institutes, if you are positive for one of the viruses, they don't actually test you for COVID because they don't think that you will have another infection. Stanford, I know for sure they actually do. They test for both of them, and they haven't noticed any like huge co-infections from what I've heard so far. So these are all like.
Bring my child into the ER and they're having a little bit of a hard time breathing. Would you test them first for the flu before you would COVID?
Yeah. Okay. So you would test for like flu and RSV first, because we could get those results back within the hour. Yep. And if they are positive for that, then we don't test you for anything else. Yep. Let's say they're negative for that. But when we look at you, you're not as sick, don't look so concerning. Then, every case by case, we look at it, but not everyone gets automatically a test for COVID because, once again, we're limited on test kits. And unless you're really sick, yeah. And if you're going to get admitted, now definitely we have to have a discussion. Like, do you need to be tested for something else? Right. So that's pretty much it. But what's a good thing is the children have so far, if you're a perfectly healthy child with no other like medical conditions, people are doing well. Now for immunocompromised children with chronic medical conditions, I'm going to say be wise. Like our kids they're like the special populations. Yes. And so our criteria for them, our threshold of, testing is a lot lower. So they'll get tested more frequently. Yeah. And then if they come in with illnesses, that would be something we would very highly, focus on too. So, yeah.
Well, awesome. I'd love to, just as we wrap up, I'd love to hear just practical ways in your day-to-day. I know you had mentioned earlier, Psalm 91, having that be, that's what got you through med school and residency. And what is in your day, like, how do you just real practically keep that peace and anxiety as you get up and you're sometimes up all night and sometimes not, and just the pace of what's happening right now? What are little practical ways that you take care of your own self and your heart and your mind, and just to keep your own self healthy? What are some things you do?
I think so. So morning devotion definitely helps me set my mind, and especially when I'm busy at work and running in and out, I actually do have to take a moment. I have an office, and I go sit in my office real quick, take that 30-second breather. But one thing that has actually been helpful is actually like remembering certain verses, so meditating on the word. Like, yes, God, you said that because I love you and I seek you, like no harm will come against me.
Yes.
You have promised that, yes, things may come close to me, left or right, but like the plague will never come near me, kind of deal. And so I actually do have to like memorize my verses and repeat it over and over again. And yeah, sometimes I can't remember all the verses verbatim. Then I have verses saved on my phone as well. And sometimes I just quickly read through multiple verses to just help me, because like just reading over and over helps me just remember his promises. Um, and and so that would be like actually throughout my hospital time, that's what I will do, just because I need to like reset myself. And when I hear negative talk or people getting really stressed out and talking about it, I will interject and be like, hey, but what if, and talk about the positives. And there are true there, I mean, it is true, like sometimes I'll say the positive and then I'll get turned back with like negative comments and all of this. And to be honest, I will remove myself from that environment. If I'm trying to be the light and I'm trying to stand tall, but if they continue to, have these negative thoughts, I've at least shared what I believed. But then if I don't need to be there, then it's okay. Just remove myself. And then that's about it. And then it is true. At night, sometimes when I get these phone calls, I get a little bit anxious, and I just have to pray and keep asking God, like, hey, God, I'm getting nervous again. And then I just had to continue talking to him, praying again, and that really helps. And I do have prayers saved on my phone, and so there are times when I just have to quickly replay like my 30-second prayer or 1-minute prayer, and then kind of refocus again. But it is true. It's a daily, like, you gotta be very active in keeping yourself strong. And yeah, we'll have our weak moments, but that's what friends are for.
Right. That's so good.
Like, just to help pray with us, because we're,
Yeah, I just love that. I keep seeing this picture of just like even like a heart rate rhythm, and how like we need to keep our baseline, and our hearts can start to get in AFib, or, and we need to just reset and get back to our normal rhythm. And we need to know what our normal rhythm is, so that we can keep that peace and that beat, that correct beat. And I feel like I love what you just shared, just about, getting away to your office, 30 seconds, regrouping, devotional in the morning, just keeping those verses on your phone, just having you've truly woven it throughout your day, and interjecting positive things in a conversation where it needs to be spoken. And I love how you don't have to stay there if it's not being received, but a lot of times those people will go away and they'll still remember it even after you leave. So I love the deliberate ways that you have just said, you know what, I'm going to be my best self out there right now, because I am blessed to be a part of this cure that we're going to see coming. The healing of our is coming.
And and that's one thing. I was like, I have to say 2 things before I forget. One thing, just because I work at Mercy, FYI, people, we still have gowns and masks. I just couldn't find them, but we have it. So I don't want people to go out there and go, oh my gosh, Mercy doesn't have the PPE. I'm like, no, we do. I just couldn't find them.
But they're right there.
Yeah, they're there. Okay, so I hope no one thinks that we don't have it, because our leadership has been doing amazing. Number 2, we've, as a medical group, we always pray that Reading will be known. Like, we will be known as like a healing community, that people will be known worldwide, not just for Bethel, but in the medical aspect. Like, there is something supernaturally happening out there. And to be honest, I was like, God, is this like for a time like this where our community is known for like they have very little cases. They all tested everyone, but they still have little cases. Or there is miraculous healing. These people are getting healed so fast that if anyone has symptoms come in, their turnaround rate is super fast. There's no, like, deaths or whatnot.
Right.
And so I was like, God, that's us. That's how our writing community becomes known as in the world, And so these are like the hopes and dreams we have.
Yes, we want to be known for more than just flushing scraps of t-shirt for toilet paper. We want, I want that to be our national recognition.
Oh man, yeah.
We want to go higher than that. We want to have
Yes.
natural levels of health and recovery from COVID. Yes. And
Yes.
just skipping over, like just passing over, if we could even that for just to
be awesome.
skip over it, and that would be so incredible. I will believe in that. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Dr. Sharon Joo. I just appreciate you taking this time. I know you're so busy and you're moving and there's a lot going on, but we really appreciate you just speaking wisdom to us and insight and hope and encouragement. I feel really encouraged. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing, for being on the front lines, and for taking care of our babies. And it is a beautiful thing. And I just really love your heart. And we will be praying for protection for you in this season, that you can continue to be strong and that you can continue to do the work that's set before you. So
thank you so much.
Okay. Awesome. Have a great day.